Gridiron Warrior podcast is built for strength and football coaches who want to run the best possible programs for their athletes and their communities. Each episode delivers simple, practical coaching advice that transfers straight from the weight room to the field. No theory, no fluff, no fancy words, just real world strategies from coaches that are living it. So you can build stronger, faster, more durable athletes at any level. From the beginning, I've committed to only bringing on sponsors that I myself use and would confidently recommend to any coach. And that's why I'm fired up to partner with TrainHeroic. TrainHeroic is the platform I use to write programs, run my own training, and deliver workouts to athletes and whole teams. It's clean, it's coach friendly, and your athletes are actually going to go in the app and use it and enjoy it, compared to some of the other ones that are out there. If you're a strength coach looking for a better way to program and get that information to your athletes, or if you're a coach and you just want, plug and play, ready to go training programs that you don't have to build, TrainHeroic is it. Okay. And here's the kicker for anyone that is a supporter of the Gridiron Warrior. Start a free 90-day trial of TrainHeroic using the link, trainheroic.com/Gridiron Warrior. And I'll drop 2 12-week training programs right into your account so that you don't have to start from scratch. You can start with 2 12-week programs built in there, tweak them, change them, customize them, and get a good feel of using the app. And those will be in there for you so you can use those. So head to www.trainheroic.com/Gridiron Warrior, start your 90-day free trial, and reply to your welcome email saying that you want those 2 12-week training programs from me, and I'll make sure you get those. If you're a high school coach trying to bring structure and feedback to your jump and speed training, you need to check out Plyomat. The switch mat technology is precise, durable, and it's far more reliable than those laser-based systems. More importantly, the feedback is instant. Your jump height, your contact time, RSI, all shown on the remote, the controller, and it's logged in their app as well. You can use it every single day as a checkpoint. Are your athletes hitting plyo numbers or thresholds? We use it in season to gauge readiness. You can check their ground reaction force and see if their springs are there as well. It's something that you'll bring out and use every single day in the weight room. If you follow Rich Burnett, the founder, you already know that the education piece is big too. He's a high school guy at heart, and so is the company. So, Plyomat is there to provide everything that we talk about in Gridiron Warrior, actionable results, real service, great customer service, and they're trying to bring jump training to the next level. So happy to support them. Check out the Plyomat. Today on the podcast, I have Coach Jack Dustin from Endicott College in Massachusetts, Division III program. They've been killing it the past few years. And he is actually one of our speakers, presenters at the Gridiron Warrior Summer Summit on July 18th here at URI. He's going to be talking about all things warm-up. So this was a preview for that today. And we talked about it in the podcast. When you add up all these little 10, 15-minute warm-ups throughout the season, you get 77 total hours to get better. So what are you doing during that time? You can't do the same warm-up every day. You can't be doing the same stretches. And we know there's better things to do in your warm-up than others. So we get into it today. It's an introduction to it. I hope you like this episode. And if you do, I want to see you at the Summer Summit. We're going to do all this stuff live. We're going to do it hands-on. We're going to learn how to really build some good warm-ups today. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode of the Gridiron Warrior podcast. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Gridiron Warrior podcast. Today, I have Coach Jack Dustin from Endicott College, another New England coach. I'm sorry, all my people down south and in the Midwest and whatnot is I've got a lot of New England connections. So I got to use them while I can. But Coach, tell us your story. Tell us how you got there. Tell us about Endicott a little bit. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Name's Jack Dustin, head strength coach at Endicott College. This will be my 8th year here. What got me here? I started in the private sector, where I was at a place called Compete Strength and Conditioning, which is very much, when I was there, not as big as it is now. Joe Drain has definitely grown that place, and he's a big reason I'm actually in the game. He was an Assumption grad. I was an Assumption grad. And I was his first intern. The place that he has now is beautiful. When we first started, it was one of those grassroots places. You had maybe 15 yards of turf. There was 3 racks in there. Everything was kind of stitched together, and he's built into a new whole place where it's, 60 yards of turf and a separate weight room. So he's done a great job. My career started, I was a football player. I wasn't great at athletics. It wasn't my thing. I was a fourth line guy for my dad's hockey team. Um, went to high school, tried football. First day I was starting center because I saw no one there. The next day I was fourth string center. So I quickly learned there as well. Like, there's things you need. Strength and conditioning came easy to me when I started lifting with Coach Finaro, another big mentor for me, and Massachusetts guy. He got me better immediately, and it was a big portion of like what made me grow. Um, the strength piece came easy. The football piece, once again, sophomore year, I came in. I had a good chance of playing probably on varsity. It was the playbook. And that's where, other coaches came in, and Coach Lozzie was like, well, you can't be a big dumb farm animal. You need to actually learn the plays. Um, so that's kind of like my football career. All of a sudden, my junior year, starting both ways for Severian. Senior year, we went in the Super Bowl, so that was sweet. Went to Assumption College. When I was at Assumption College, I knew I wanted to coach. I didn't know what I wanted to coach. Um, Played on the football team. So in my head, I'm like, probably a football coach. Uh, so working through that, all of a sudden, my fifth year comes up because I was able to do an extra trip around the sun at Assumption College out in Worcester, which was sweet. And I had to decide. So I decided to go to, like I said, compete strength and conditioning. When I went there, I had a great time. I was learning a lot. And I realized like the strength and conditioning was a big piece of who I was and what I loved. It's, grinding with the boys, getting after it in that cultural weight room where you're yelling, you're screaming, weights are slamming, which is awesome, but there's more to it from a schematic standpoint. Uh, at my time at Compete, I was fortunate enough that one of my old coaches had reached out to me, Corey Bailey, and he had spoken about coming down to Coastal Carolina where he was at and doing kind of like a dual internship where I worked with both the strength staff and the football staff. One as coaching for defensive line, like assisting with that, and then helping with it was track and field, men's soccer, and then football and cheerleading for the strength staff. So I was trying to do like a dual internship at the same time. Um, as everyone knows in the strength and conditioning world, when you do an internship, you might need to take a cut. So I went from Compete where I was making decent money. I was hourly, but decent money as far as weight rooms go. And then took a huge drop off to that zero so I could go do an internship down in Myrtle Beach. Phenomenal time. So much learning, whether it was from the head coach, Coach Moglia, um, who was originally the CEO of TD Ameritrade. So there was a lot of stuff in there that you could learn.
I have two books. My old man, before he passed away, gave me a whole stack of books, and he was a big Joe Moglia guy. And there's two books. One is like inverted perimeter offense, where you put your biggest kids on the perimeter and throw it out to them instead of trying to battle in the trenches. And then it was another one about like setting up financial investments and things like that. So that's a deep pull right there. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. He was one of those guys that he was able to write a book in finance because he was the CEO of a Fortune 500. And then he was also able to write a football book. So it was pretty special being there. His whole staff, from the strength staff down to the football staff, like amazing from a learning perspective. It was a massive learning curve, obviously, but it was something that, like, if you could just hold on, you would get some really good tidbits. And then from there, I went back to my alma mater to help with at Assumption, where I was doing the defensive line one year and then offensive line the next. So I was a football guy. I helped out with strength and conditioning when I could and when he needed me, whether it was charting for a strength test or whatever it may be. And that was kind of where I was able to kind of write my story a little bit. And I think Coach McGonigal, who's the head coach at Endicott, when he got the job here at Endicott, he was the Assumption OC. When he got that position, he asked me if I would want to kind of do a dual role. And he knew I wanted to be a strength coach. He knew football wasn't necessarily the number one ticket for me as far as coaching, but he knew that there was a position. The position was going to be dual. You'd be part strength coach, part football coach. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And it was easily the best decision I ever made. Within a year, I was made into the head strength coach at Endicott College and the first one, and hopefully got got a few more good years under my belt and keep riding the wave a little bit.
Now, being a Springfield College guy, right? A lot of D3 football pride. I don't like when other D3 schools in New England start being successful because that means that Springfield is either falling off or we just got to work even harder to talk about Endicott because you guys have had some really good years the past few years and you are making a name for yourself, not just in New England, but I mean, you're going across the country and you're beating people. So,
Yeah, I mean, culturally, Coach McGonigal has set this thing up for success as far as football goes, and that's kudos to him and kudos to all the other coaches at the school. Really, I mean, when you look at Endicott College, the success of all athletics, as I do oversee it, like it's pretty large. Football's in the NCAAs year in and year out now. Hockey's are in the NCAAs. Baseball's in the NCAAs. They're going to the World Series. Like field hockey knocked off Middlebury, and it was their first loss in 5 years. You're just seeing like all these cool things. Women's lacrosse just made it to the playoffs. Um, there's a lot of playoffs happening, and obviously the goal is to poke one through and get that national championship. I'd be remiss if I didn't say equestrian. We do have one national champion, and that is a varsity sport. So we will
let's
take
go.
that in a bird. Yeah, oh yeah, big time. It was huge, right? Like it's a chip on the block, and it's hey, you're getting your name out there. So I think like for us, it is that cultural piece, and I think a lot of the coaches have that here, and it's how do you push, hard and making sure that you're following the X's and O's, but like you always say, like change it up, have fun. Like I think like all the podcasts that you put out and all the work you've done, whether it was with Coach Gilfedder, Mike Morgan, like a big piece of it is like the kids have to buy in. They're kids, right? They are athletes, they're young adults, whether you're working with college or high school, like adding in that fun piece and making sure they're competing, I think is massive. And it's yeah, like sometimes the games are silly, sometimes the stuff you do is silly, but it's to get them to compete. And whenever you throw someone into the fire, and Coach Chesney used to always do it, Coach McGonigal does it, right? Coach Finaro did it at Siberian, Coach Joe Drain does it at Compete. Like you get people to compete and you get people to really move. Um, and I think it is the ultimate driver of any athletic performance program is that just level of competition and making sure that the groups are competing with each other so that they're ready on game day. It doesn't feel new. It doesn't feel like something they haven't done.
Let's get in that a little bit more because obviously at the D3 level, now granted, right? Springfield, Endicott, off season is at the D3 level optional, but we know optional doesn't mean optional, right? So yeah, you're going to get the kids to show up to the weight room. They're going to do that. But let's talk about, your expectations of the weight room, how you set that up from a culture standpoint. What does your off season program look like for football? And then maybe give us some of those insights of like, do you do an off season competition with point systems or something like that? Or how do you build those competitions in? Or are you just throwing them in at the end of lifts and things like that? But let's get into that, the off season, what that looks like for you guys there.
Yeah, so the off season for us, yeah, we do have big expectations. It starts first and foremost with like the captains, the leadership, and I think that's big. Understanding, like you said, it's technically optional, but they don't really let it be. And I think that's massive. Like, I don't remember the last time somebody missed because outside of like maybe being sick. And that becomes a question sometimes, which I know is similar at some other D3 schools. You could lose a lot of stuff. Everything that I do is it's grounded in the basics. Like, if we're not being brilliant in the basics, then it won't work. I think D3 is one of those last frontiers where you actually do get to train someone for 4 years. So I'm not necessarily in a rush. We do get a few grad transfers or transfers here and there. Um, but our goal is we use periodization, we use the good old books, right? Tudor Bumpa, Zatsiorsky, like Yuri Verkhoshansky, and just making sure that we're really pounding the road and making sure that we're developing the athletes. So our off season, it's a bit of a grind, right? I wouldn't say we're block training. That's not what we do, but we do follow along, and it's more of like a vertical integration where once we exit a season, we go into our transition phase, and it's what do we do in our transition phase? Well, we do 2 weeks of like extreme range of motion, and then we usually get into some form of eccentrics, isometrics, and then get into a concentric, and it's hammering that, and then we go into more of like hypertrophy, and then it's more strength, power, as we start to lead up to the season. But it's definitely a grind. We'll do density sets. We'll use all the different variables you can throw at someone. This 612s, 25s, depending on the year. Uh, our goal is to field a team that Endicott can be proud of. We can't do that if we're not developing them correctly. So we will, like I said, we do follow standard timeline, but within that standard timeline, things can shift. We've had athletes that are very advanced. Hector Johnson, Mike Kenny were two of those, and we used force plate data, we used spring gate data, we used that to kind of advance them a little bit faster and put them into different brackets. And then we have a group that's more intermediate, and that's fine. Like we're gonna train them as such, and then our novice group. Um, I think that's the biggest thing for us. As far as competitions go, we layer those in. There is a point system. I heard Joe Gilfedder talk, and I was just like, some of his ideas are great. I saw that you're both wrestling fans, which makes me happy. I don't get to nerd out about that a ton. My wife at home is not always thrilled when I start bringing that up. It's nice having a son and a daughter. Actually, my daughter Wave, she's just as interested. But I think like the Money in the Bank idea, that's a great idea, right? Like, there were some really cool ideas in there that I definitely am going to be stealing. Purchasing a belt as we speak, probably. Uh, for us, we have like competitions that we have like set on that day, um, specifically like programmed in. If I don't program something in, I'm ADHD. Like my chances of remembering it for every group might be different. Um, we have, 4 groups throughout a day because we have 10 racks. So 3 kids per rack. You're talking your average 112 person roster in the spring for that D3 level. So it's like we're going through and we have that 4, maybe 5 groups. So programming it in has helped me. Uh, and then there are days where like the weight room itself will turn into a competition. And then I do believe it's okay to allow that as well. I believe that's kind of like the Money in the Bank type type style with the exception of like we don't have the actual box. But like people will call each other out. Um, you'll once in a while see somebody try and touch the stop sign and somebody else be like, hey, let's see if you can hit it. And then all of a sudden you look back and there's like 20 kids lined up to try and jump up and hit a sign.
The example I give is I like to do those things as well. I like to add those in. Not everything needs to be this super structured, planned out. The Money in the Bank is happening on this day at this event. It doesn't always need to be like that. Some days you just got to say at the end of the lift, let's make sure we do something with them that is competitive, whether it's a pull up hang, all those things I talked about with Joe on the previous podcast. But we did one where it was chains, lateral hold, and they're just like maybe 3 inches off the ground. It's like, all right, first person to drop loses. And, I picked 3. And I always try to pick, I don't always put my heavyweights, my best guys in there. I like putting, some challenges, whether it's up and comer versus a veteran or offense versus defense, however I can make it work. I like to mix it up. I like being in control of the matchups because again, it makes me feel like I'm a wrestling promoter and I'm like choosing the fight card that day. And the kids never know. They never know if their name's going to get called. So part of it is that, and, I'm not going to reward a slappy who's not working hard by letting them do the competition in front of everybody. So again, it's hard to get this opportunity, but a good culture is like, we did 3 of those. And then, I was like, all right, get a break. And then 20 kids went back over to the chains. And for the next 20 minutes, we're calling each other out and doing one-on-ones. Cause they're like, I didn't get a chance and I want this guy. And you know what? And it's like, that's what it's all about is again, creating a culture. And whether it's structured with the championship belt and things like that, I'm trying to rework how we do the summer. In a point system way to reward consistency, to reward obviously attendance, but also are you going above and beyond and do a point system that way, not just like the kid that wins every drill is the kid that gets the belt, but finding a way to make a little bit more from that. But just again, a culture of competition, whether it's, the lasers, it's the jump mats, it's, not every day is going to be a max out squat, but like, can we do this 4x3? Can we smash this and make it look better than the rack next to us? Can we do a better job of those things? It's when you can get kids every single day to compete and not just that competition, but can you compete at everything that you do? Right. Those are things we talk about, but are we living it? And I think that's part of the reason why we've had so much success is we bring in kids that want to compete. We bring in transfers that,
at a lower level. Now they're coming up to prove themselves. Great. That kid loves to compete. A kid who didn't play at the higher level and wants a chance to play now and wants to get on the field. That kid wants to compete. And it just breeds competition. And when you're doing that, you're willing to sacrifice, you're willing to do things for the team. So again, we're on the same page there. I think that's a huge part of the culture. Got to be why you guys have been successful over the past couple of years, and you're going to continue to be. Let's shift gears here a little bit, because you've been on the clinic circuit. You've been talking on a few. We're going to bring you in for the Gridiron Warrior Summer Summit. Talk about that in a few, but talking about warm-ups and the Summer Summit. My whole thing with this, if people haven't heard by now, is we're doing things different. Don't get me wrong, I love PowerPoints. I love getting up there learning. I love going to a big conference and hearing people do it. But there's something about watching people coach. Take me through it. Show me how to do it. I am a hands-on learner for sure. I always say with our football coaches, if it's a football conference, if you're triple option, if you're double wing, you're not going to the spread offense presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're the head coach and you got to defend the spread, you're not going, wow, that was a great talk. I really need to change everything that we do offensively. But you'll go to a presentation like this. You'll learn how to do a better warm-up, and you'll teach us warm-ups and things like that. And you'll take something away from it, and it will make your program better. So that's the whole goal with the Summer Summit, is live, hands-on. And you're coming in to talk warm-ups. I know you've talked to a couple other conferences this year already about warm-up. But when it comes to that, it's a valuable time of the year, the day, the practice. And it's short. Now, granted, right, it's 10, 15 minutes, but it's 4 or 5 times a week during the season, and it stacks up. So let's talk about warm-ups a little bit and how valuable they are to your program.
Yeah. So for me, just like you said, like the visual piece is one of the biggest things I took away from my time at Coastal. Actually, was the initial assessment they had of all their athletes. They took their athletes, they had them do a written test, and they found out, hey, are you a visual learner? Are you a kinesthetic learner? Are you a reading and writing type learner? Or are you an auditory learner? And everyone's a little bit of everything. But the thing that usually comes out with athletes and coaches alike is we are very kinesthetic. We like to be in the playground. We like to get our hands dirty. We want to learn. So I am really excited to be like hammering away at the warm-up piece, because I do think warm-ups are not always bad. I don't think they're always bad. I think they have the right intention, but I don't think people use them as the way to get their athletes excited, right? And it's like that excitement build from like a physical and physiological standpoint and mental standpoint can be absolutely massive and game changing. One of the things that we talk about, and I believe it was Coach Horn who actually like opened my eyes to it. Like if you break down a warm up, and let's say you are only allotted that 15 minutes, you're looking at about 77 hours within a football type programming, and that's at our level. Higher levels, you'll see more. High school, you'll probably see more as well, depending on where you are. So like we have 77 hours of training, right, under our belt from just warming up. So if we're just sitting there and we're doing a static stretch, or we're just doing, and I do use the Wenning warm up, but if we're just doing the Wenning warm up, like we've probably missed a bulk of what we could have done. You can get a lot done in 15 minutes. For us, it's all about, that movement, the coordination, the sprint mechanics, all that stuff. Adding in some mobility, some stability type stuff, adding in speed, power, general strength, and fun and play. And it's like, well, how do you do that? So for us, it's been, how do you integrate some themes? For us, it's when you program, whether it's the strength and conditioning piece or the warm-ups, for a coach, you need to know your themes. The athletes don't necessarily need to know it. They just need to be able to read it if they're at home, and that's about it. At times it will feel like they're doing the same thing. The key is to just add in variation there. So for us, we have our day one theme is always vertical. So for us, everything we do that day in the warm-up is going to be, whether it's a power thing, a strength thing, a speed thing, it's going to be some form of vertical integration. So like day one, we'll do the normal dynamic, right? We'll come in, we'll do a dynamic. And then the jump that we do, because we're going to jump that day, we're going to sprint that day, and we're going to throw that day, will be up, right? So the jump might be just a normal vertical jump. And then, 4 weeks later, we might be looking at, hey, can we do it from a split squat stance? Hey, 4 weeks later or 3 weeks later, whatever it is, can we alternate that split squat stance and just really harp on like the different kinds of jumping? Can we jump over a hurdle? Track hurdles, right? Continuous track hurdles, and so forth. But you're putting force into the ground vertically. The throw, some variation of an overhead throw, right? It could be as simple as standing here, tossing that thing up, or going from a scoop toss type position, or now all of a sudden you put a partner out and you have the partner drop it, and now it becomes reactive. You know, from the sprint mechanic side, hey, are we doing fly 10s? Fly 10s are great. They're awesome, right? Build-ups, they're great. They're awesome. Can you have, for us, like, I'm out there with 100 and whatever, 20 kids, in that 112 to 120 kids in that spring session where we're doing our sprint work. And it's like, okay, like for me to get everyone on the same page, I know it's that vertical day. I know we're going to be doing, let's say, fly 10s on that first day. Great. I have offensive linemen. They don't run the same as a receiver. There's maybe one or two kids we have that are, running 19 to 21 miles per hour that are linemen. That's great. Those guys I do push into a different group. They usually run with our like tight ends and our mids group. Um, and then it's like you said, like how can you make it more fun, right? And how can you alternate? So like a fly 10 or so build up can turn into a fly 10 4 weeks later. A fly 10 can be in and out using like different track modalities, right? And that's your day one. Day one is, in my opinion, the day that doesn't shift as much. They'll go in after that and they'll usually test their counter movement jump on the force plate. Uh, Day two is lateral for us. They come in, everything is laterally integrated. So all of a sudden you're talking, okay, like, do your dynamic. And then you go into, okay, what's the jump going to look like? Well, we have skater hops. We have lateral bounds. We have sideways bounces. We can do band resisted. We can do reactive skater hops where you have somebody calling it out. So now it's an auditory cue. Or hey, you're going to get someone moving with hands and like making them see a visual cue or a tennis ball. Um, and so forth. The throw, same deal. Everything's coming from that sideways orientation. Those I think are a little bit more fun, just because you're throwing it usually at a wall, once in a while at another human. But you take that ball and you throw it, right? Well, that's normal. That's just a hip toss. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, now I can shuffle into it. Great. Or hey, I'm going to have somebody roll it to me. I have to scoop, pick that thing up, and then right. If you look at any baseball facility, you can get 10,000 different med ball variations like that. Like they're all doing it. The Cressies of the world and all of them. I think like med balls are cool. Med balls are fun. It's good to throw them fast, right? It adds to that little bit of like violence that I think an athlete needs. Especially football when you start looking at how can I be violent with my torso and like from ground up, right? So feet into the legs, into the torso, into the upper body, because there's going to be torque when you're shoving someone around, or there's going to be torque when you're turning and like trying to get up for a ball. And I think that's important. And then acceleration. So like speed based stuff is we usually go acceleration on this lateral day. For us, it's usually reactive. So we try and, that first 4 weeks, it's pretty simple. We start in a half kneeling start maybe, but you're facing another person. You don't move until that person moves. You could start that person further behind, right? The one who's starting, and all of a sudden you're at a disadvantage. And that kind of goes to like your scores and stops type stuff where, hey, you're not always going to be in the best position as a player. The question is, how do you take that Ben Watson type mentality and fight your way back, right? And I think everyone remembers that one, at least for.
Quick break. This episode is powered by Enduraphin. Enduraphin is a performance nutrition company built for high school, college, or professional athletes who take their training seriously. Their patented FinTech bottles right here come preloaded with clean, third-party certified, so NSF, protein. All you have to do is add liquid, add water, add milk, whatever, shake it and go. No blender, no mess, no excuse for not getting your protein in. It's trusted by over 150 college and pro teams because it works in actual training environments, on the road, in the weight room, post-practice. When recovery matters most, Enduraphin is there. So if you need a discount, you want team pricing, reach out to me or check out Enduraphin online and tell them that you're interested in team pricing. All right. Now back to the show.
For New England fan.
That's a great poll, man. If people aren't Patriot fans, then you're missing out, but that's a great poll right there. I think with warm-ups too, not just in the weight room, but even on the field, I think there's a lot of football coaches out there. Now, granted, right, you got a lot of hats you have to juggle. A lot of high school coaches tell me like they're this, they're the AD, they're the math teacher. and when they're building out their practice script, they put warm up, they put 10-minute block. And when they copy and paste for the next day, the one thing they don't change is warm up. It just stays warm up, warm up, warm up. And they do the same thing every day. And what I tell them is even on the field, you have an opportunity to mix things up, right? So if it's an acceleration day, you can put in some plyometrics. You could do a couple of jumps and then jog it out. We start on the sideline and we go into the hashes and then we turn around, we come back and we do our dynamic that way. There's nothing to say you can't do 3 vertical jumps and jog it out, 3 broad jumps, jog it out. You could do acceleration day, some half kneeling linear starts. If we're going to do a couple sprints right at the end of the warm up to get ready to go, let's do half kneeling. And then we can do partner chase. We can easily set that up and, hey, on the whistle, we're going partner chase. And you can build it into your practice. Now, if it's the max V day, maybe that's the day where you have them, you're doing a big sprint and you get the lasers out if you have access to them as a program. And you're doing lasers on that day in season. You're touching your high speed work, because I don't think people do enough of that during the season. And then, you have another day where it's like, hey, this is our lateral themed warm up. You're going to see a lot more shuffling that day. It might be reactive. It might be first whistle, shuffle, next whistle, shuffle the other way, shuffle, 2 whistles, jog it out. It's not hard to add little wrinkles like this. And it makes a huge difference over the course of, like you said, 77 something hours over the course of the season. And the other big thing it does is it battles the monotony of the season. And we've all been there. If you played football, you know what it is. You're there, you're going through it. When you're in November, December, and you're doing the same warm-up you did in August, you may or may not be putting the same amount of effort into that stretch. And you're just doing it because it's part of the block. You're talking to your teammates. Your position coach might be talking to you while you stretch and going over the day. But mixing it up, adding new drills, adding new wrinkles, and taking that practice block, instead of just saying warm-up and writing it on your block, and actually thinking about, okay, what am I going to do different today? What little wrinkles can I add in? Even if it's just the same Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but you mix up what Monday, Wednesday, Friday look like, I think that goes such a long way in the long term,
absolutely,
in terms of athletic development.
Yeah, you just get to touch on so many different things, right? And athletics, whether you're just a football coach or strength coach or admin, the more you understand, I think the sprints, jumps, and throws should become your baby, right? We all talk about it in strength and conditioning, right? You have to ramp it up. By the end of it, it should really be um, setting the stage for that next drill. And it's if you're just doing a normal dynamic and there's no setup for that high speed collision based stuff, then you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. And that's why even with our conditioning days, we'll actually have, I stole it from you, but we were doing a lot of grappling work, and it's different shoulder wrestling, sumo type wrestling, right? And it's I think you start adding that stuff in, and it's okay, that's good conditioning for one group, for 2 groups, really, right? You're talking offensive line, defensive line, and throw some of the other mids in there once in a while to get that shoulder contact, prep work in, and you start to see a difference in the athletes. And just making sure that like I said, we have 4 different days of themes. 2 of those days happen to be multi-directional, and multi-directional is just trying to hit different vectors from a jumping perspective, different lines of throws, which could be fun, right? You could throw a med ball over a field goal post, right? And that could actually just be a competition. You could turn that one into a competition like that. And now within that 15 minutes, not only have you gotten sprints, jumps, and throws in, but you've now also added in a competition to light the fire. And then the multi-directional is steal other people's stuff, find drills. And I think that's why the 2 days is perfect with it. You find different drills, and those drills could lead to, your scores and stuff is awesome, right? And it's you look at it, you're oh, those are football drills with just different implements. And it's so smart, right? Oh, well, they do this in practice. Why not turn it into a drill that we use to start seeing hey, can we see what's actually happening and make good decisions? And I think for us, that's where we find a lot of our success. We run this before lifts usually. In season, our warm-ups, I usually extend to about 25 minutes because it is sprinting, jumping, and throwing. And I'm that is the major part of what the athletes are doing. And then we go downstairs and we do the general work where we'll do, 2x1 on a box squat, maybe at 90%, and then some accessory work and get out. Like it's in season, like it becomes like the workout almost. So yeah.
I would say to piggyback on that, even in season for us, we do everything in the mornings. We'll do all our meetings and then we go to practice, and then the kids will come in and lift right after practice. Now, depending on their class schedules, it's either, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, they figure it out. But that's the one thing I haven't sacrificed is no matter what, even if you just practice for 2 hours, I'm still going to have you come in and do some sort of maybe a resisted sprint, a med ball throw, maybe a mobility in there, but more it's again, I think these things are athletic skills that you have to continue to touch. I can't say, oh, because you practice for 2 hours, we're going to skip that and we're going to make sure we get the lifting piece in because you haven't done the lifting piece. It's something that it's too valuable not to do. And if I had to sacrifice something, I'll get rid of the accessory work in season. I'll get rid of the dumbbell row, little stuff all day. And if all we do is this athletic type stuff, and then we go in and we hit our meat and potato lift and we're done, I'm good with that. In the summer, we go about an hour and a half every day, and it's, set up to be 45 minutes and 45 minutes on the field and then in the weight room. There's days where I'm out on the field for an hour doing all this stuff. And we come in and we lift. We may have to sacrifice some stuff on the back end, but I feel so much better on those days where we did a lot of good field work. And then we hit like that big lift. We'll do all of our speed work. We'll do all our med ball throws and jumps. The kids come in, they feel really good. We hit a couple warm-ups. Maybe we're doing some jumps, like loaded jumps, or getting on the force plates or something. And then we get in, we hit our big squat. And you know what? Like if we got to cut it at that point because we ran out of time, that's a great day. I would much rather do that than cut our warm-up short, cut our speed work short, cut our med balls and jumps, just because I want to get my squats and my dumbbell rows and my pull-ups in. Don't get me wrong, I love those things. But I think that's been the biggest shift in my philosophy over the past few years, and even the Gridiron Warrior stuff, is the emphasis on the field stuff, contact prep, the scores and stuff, scores and stops, and all of that in the long run. Again, it takes time. I think that sometimes coaches get confused on that. You got to stack 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, and it's got to be consistent, but it's going to pay dividends in the long run in terms of not just athletic ability, but competition, buy-in. The kids feel better. They're just like, I feel more athletic. I feel more ready to go for the day. There's too much value in not doing. I think
Very well said.
The other piece too is you can also, I've helped some high school programs out, is use these things as a primer as well. I work with a school out in Montana, and they travel 5-6 hours for a game. You get off the bus after a 5-6 hour bus ride. Like you need something to get the day. You can't just rely on your pregame warm-up to get you there. If you have a dynamic warm-up, you might need a little more. So we incorporated doing some isometrics like band holds, resisted sprints, brought a couple of med balls on the bus, and the kids are ripping out when they get off the bus. And then they're putting their pads on, they're warming up, they're doing their dynamic and stuff like that. And they're seeing a better result that way as well. So again, it's too valuable not to do. So you're coming in this summer. That's July 18th for the coaches who haven't seen it yet, haven't signed up for it yet. You're coming in. Jim Koretzi's coming in. He's going to do some lateral movement stuff as well. And then he's going to talk about, he calls it chaos training. So he gets like the first 15 minutes of practice, and he tries to really like ramp their heart rate up, because his thought is like, they're not really getting that high intensity stuff during practice. Practice is very focused and attention to detail. And so he's trying to get them ready for the stress in practice in the first 15 minutes, which is great. I can't wait to see that. I'm doing a clinic on neck training because I think that's something that you need to learn how to do it correctly. It's one of those things you can't just watch videos. You got to learn how to do manual resistance. You need to know what it feels like, and then you can go teach it to others. So we're gonna do a whole thing on neck training. I think it's too valuable not to do during the season. And then on the football side, we're bringing in a coach, talk about pump blocks, because I think that's huge. Got another coach coming in to talk about tackling, because tackling is essential. Everyone values that. And then Dante Scarnecchi is going to be the keynote, because I'm a Patriots guy, and I've always just selfishly said I would love to just be a fly on the wall and watch him coach people for an hour. I don't want to. I've seen him talk on the whiteboard. He does a phenomenal job up on the board talking schematics and all that. But schematics is one thing. You can control that. I want to see how you make a difference in offensive line play. How do you teach somebody, how to get their hands fit, how to get the right feel? There's going to be so many gems there. I'm not even a football guy, but I'm excited to watch other coaches coach, because I think that's what makes you better. So that's July 18th for coaches who haven't signed that. Last question I'll hit you with, Coach, and I ask everyone that comes on the podcast, right? you're probably not making Nick Saban money at Endicott. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you are. Right? So a lot of long hours. You're doing a lot. You got 4 groups a day of football, but you love it. So what is it that you love about strength conditioning? What is it that you love about football that gets you up and out of bed every day and gets you over to work?
Yeah. One of the quotes I'm actually living by. It's been on my. We all have our own quotes. I know that. But it's just what a privilege it is to be tired from what you once prayed for. Right. I knew that I wanted to coach pretty early on, from high school. Really. Like I said, I had a lot of mentors along the way, a lot of great coaches, who shifted my abilities. Like I said, I played fourth line on my dad's hockey team, right? And that was a good standard to set by him. And then from there, it's you have Coach Lawsey making sure that like I'm not a mindless memorizer. You had Coach Bernaro holding a really high standard of, hey, like you're not going to be late, you're not missing, you're not all these different standards that like should be set in high school, because those are going to make you better people. Uh, Coach Lawsey was also my math teacher, and for him, he came in on day one. He looked at us all, and he's like, "Hey, listen, my name's Mr. Lawsey. I coach math and I teach football." And his whole thing was like, "Don't be a mindless memorizer." And for me, like from an educational standpoint, you have to learn the process. Uh, when I saw that growth, I knew immediately from day one of like being at Severian, pretty much that like coaching was going to be probably what I wanted to do, because I saw an immediate shift in what I was capable of doing. It gave me that like confidence that I needed to like succeed, and the tools. So I just wanted to give back, and I think like we all say, like I think we all fall into that same thing. Like we do it for the kids, do it for the athletes, we do it for the people that we can help. But I don't think it is the weights. Right? I just like the weight room. That's what I loved. I look back at all my career and I'm like, I remember the sprints that we used to run on hills with logs in our hand for obviously good reason. And then you talk about like the summer training that we did that we didn't have. Like I was a D2 kid. Like I didn't have to stay at Assumption, but I did. All my time at Severian of doing summer training as a high schooler, going up to, Camp Marist, to do, our old two-a-days, which we went to New Hampshire because we were mass school, following the rules. And I think that's where like all of a sudden like my mind shifted when I was coaching football. I was like, wait, I'm not an X's and O guy. Like it's not who I am. I like the barbell. It's what made me the best. Um, but there's a process to weightlifting. You get this like outcome in your head, like, hey, I want to be all conference. Great. How do we get there? And I think that's what I fell in love with. I think it's very easy to break down the physical process, which then can help you get through those mental barriers, whether it's class, some social issues. I think arguably you put yourself through some physical pain, you can learn how to get through that mental pain pretty relatively easily.
I love it. It's similar to a quote I tell our kids all the time. I say the reward for hard work is more hard work, right? If you want to be a champion, you have to put in so much time and so much effort. And when you finally become a champion, you have to put even more in because there's going to be people gunning for your spot. There's going to be people trying to take you down from the top, and you can't coast, and it's if you've ever wanted a goal, you have to work your butt off for it. And once you've got that goal, you have to work even harder to go to another level to keep what you've got, and I love that. It's an awesome quote right there. Coach, this has been a blast. If people want to follow along, they want to see what you're doing training wise. How can we stay in touch? How can we follow you?
Yeah, I'm on mainly Instagram, as my main, from a follow perspective. I don't post a ton. I got to post more. I see coaches obviously putting out a ton of good content. I'm a consumer, not as much as a producer of the Instagram. Um, but I'm on there, Dustin Sports Performance, and then also I have my like personal one, under Coach Jack, and then like _D for Dustin. So I'm on there for those. And then if anyone wants my cell phone number, that's easy. Just email me at jdustin@endicott.edu. Willing to talk to anyone and everyone.
And you know what? If they got questions and want to talk to you, how about they just come to the Summer Summit on July 18th? That'd be
Which would be awesome.
Coach, thanks again for jumping on the podcast. This was great. And thank you guys for listening to the Gridiron Warrior podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you want to keep getting better, I encourage you to check out my new community, the Gridiron Warrior Insiders. Got it right here on the phone. The app is clutch. There's so many things in there that I think you'll find valuable. We have the weekly film study where you can go live with me, ask any questions you want, There's no Q&A, no big deal. I always have a topic that we're going to hit on every single week, and we record those too if you can't make it. With the Wildcat webinar, that's where I call somebody else in to run the offense, and they come in and they bring a presentation about something that they're an expert in and give us some fresh insight, new information. I have unreleased podcasts. There's about 10 or 15 that haven't gone live yet. You can listen to them early before anyone else. We have the equipment room, so discounts, whether it's TrainHeroic, Plyomat, OVR, or even my own courses. You have discounts in the equipment room. Okay, the free safety, anything that I want to throw in there, bonus programs, programs for yourself as a coach, you name it, it's in there. And we have over 50 coaches right now that are helping each other. So we post questions and coaches will work together and provide insight and share information because that's what it's all about is coaches getting better. So if you want to check that out, the links are in my bio, the links at the end of this podcast. Check it out there. Gridiron Warrior Insiders. If you enjoyed this podcast, you want to keep getting better, I encourage you to check out my new community, the Gridiron Warrior Insiders. Got it right here on the phone. The app is clutch. There's so many things in there that I think you'll find valuable. We have the weekly film study where you can go live with me, ask any questions you want. There's no Q&A, no big deal. I always have a topic that we're going to hit on every single week, and we record those too if you can't make it. With the Wildcat webinar, that's where I call somebody else in to run the offense, and they come in and they bring a presentation about something that they're an expert in and give us some fresh insight, new information. I have unreleased podcasts. There's about 10 or 15 that haven't gone live yet. You can listen to them early before anyone else. We have the equipment room, so discounts, whether it's TrainHeroic, Plyomat, OVR, or even my own courses. You have discounts in the equipment room. Okay, the free safety, anything that I want to throw in there, bonus programs, programs for yourself as a coach, you name it, it's in there. And we have over 50 coaches right now that are helping each other. So we post questions and coaches will work together and provide insight and share information because that's what it's all about is coaches getting better. So if you want to check that out, the links are in my bio, the links at the end of this podcast. Check it out there, Gridiron Warrior Insiders.